as well. We did all kinds of stuff. We did, like horseback riding. Uh, I did like intramural basketball when I was like in elementary school. I danced, ballet, jazz a little bit. Um, you know, volleyball. I played volleyball when I was in like junior high and high school. I played basketball too. Golf. I don't really know if that counts, but our school was like small enough to where like if not everybody played, then like we didn't have a team. So that was kind of, you know, that thing. I enjoyed golf. I really did. It was fun. I had fun doing it. Um it was more of like an individualized sport, I guess. Kind of like dance and like horseback riding and stuff like that. Like it was definitely more like something that you did as an individual, not really as like a team. Um But I really enjoyed playing sports when I grew up. Basketball and volleyball, those were the two big ones that like I played. Um, I was all right. I don't remember being like particularly awesome or anything like that. Uh, but I played and I had fun and it was a good time. But my family has always been very into sports. I remember when I was like a kid, I would go watch um like the college. I would go with my dad and we'd have like the super bleacher, like nosebleed section seats in the student section or whatever at the college. And so we would go watch and it was fun. Like football and basketball and stuff. That was always like a blast. I always had a lot of fun doing that. It was like something that like me and my dad um did together, like really did together. It was something that like we bonded over. Oh yeah, I also did okay. Truth be told, he tried to get me interested in like doing some sort of like physical sport, and by that I don't mean like basketball or volleyball. Not that they're not physical sports, but like something like karate or taekwondo or something, and I was never super interested in doing anything like that. I mean, I did do it for a little bit, but I was always kind of like, it's not really like my thing. My middle sister did it, did, I believe it was karate, maybe it was taekwondo, I don't know. But she did, and she was really good at it. I remember her being like really good at it. Um, well, better than me, which that's not really saying much, but she was definitely, she was good. She was really good, at it. Uh, and I just don't like just because like I've always been kind of that person. Like I just don't like violence. I'm just not a very big like, I don't like violence. I don't like feeling like I would have to use like I understand the thinking and the thought process of like being prepared and knowing how to defend yourself. I'm all for that. I'm totally for that. I have absolutely nothing against that. I totally agree with you. I was just never good at it. I was just never very like good at it. My dad always likes to say that we were doing karate or something. Like me, him, and my sister, we were all doing karate with like one of his friends or something at like the rec center at the college that they were all going to. And we would do kicks. Like we would do, like kicks, like try to break a board kicks. I never did that. I was never again, I wasn't good at it, okay? I can feel you judging me. It's fine. Um, but we would do like kicks, and my sister, uh, she could probably break a board. But when I would kick, it would be like my dad would be like, it's very beautiful and it looks very like floaty and very like, you're very flexible and it's just very pretty, but that's not what this is. Like, that's not this. This is not the time to look pretty and like do it. Like this is the time to like be a hard ass and like, get it together. So that was me with like karate and stuff. But it was just something that like me and my dad like bonded over a lot, like sports. Whether I was good at them or not, I mean, I don't really remember being like super good or like particularly great at them. Uh, but you know, it is kind of what it is. It just is. Um, but I wanted to do this one because especially like with COVID and stuff, like sports seem like they're coming back and I'm here, you know, at my parents' house and there was a football game on, a college football game on, and we're big Texas Tech fans in this house. Always have been, always will be. And the Texas Tech. So for those of you that don't know, Texas Tech is a Division One college based in Lubbock, Texas. Um, they have like little like sister schools, I guess, you know, kind of all over the state. But like the big main school is in Lubbock, and they're Division One, which means that they play against like other Division One schools for things like football and basketball. I don't really know anything about baseball, but I'm sure that you know that same rule applies. Um, but so there was so football. There was a football game on, and I was a little bit shocked because my mom and I were coming back from one of the casinos. Because that's what she wanted to do for her birthday was we were going to go to the casino for her birthday and we were coming back and my dad texted us or actually he called my mom and then was like, hey, Tech is beating Texas Tech, you know, and which is okay. So Texas Tech is the Division One school, and the University of Texas or Texas, the Longhorns, um, is another Division One school, and it's like a huge rivalry. Like every year, that is like our school that we want to beat. Like Texas Tech. It's always been a huge thing. We want to beat Texas. It's always a big upset when we beat Texas. The University of Texas. Oh yeah, and Texas Tech is the Red Raiders. So it's always a big, and the Texas Tech football team has had a go of it, guys. It has had a go of it. I'm sure other schools have had a go of it too. I don't really know much about how other schools do their stuff. Um, I just know that like because we're big Texas Tech fans, like I'm more up to date with how Texas Tech has done their stuff versus other schools. So I don't know, but I know that Texas Tech has had a go of it. We lost our big main coach, his name was Mike Leach. He was great. He was really good. He was our head coach. So that basically means like he's in charge of everything. But that also means that like if shit goes south, it's his fault. So, and apparently shit went south. I don't really remember what all happened with that. It was like a while ago, several years ago, when they got rid of him or fired him or he quit. I don't really know what exactly happened. I think the story was that he quit, but then they like retroactively fired him. I don't really know. But we lost Mike Leach, and he was our big coach. He was there forever. He was really good at it. We had so many good like players underneath him. Um, and they like listened to him, and he was just really good. But then we had another guy. I don't remember his name. He wasn't there very long. And then there was another guy, and then Cliff Kingsbury, who played for Mike Leach as a quarterback. So again, for those of you that don't know anything about sports, that's the guy that throws the ball. He's generally like a douchey. He's generally portrayed like in the media, so like in Hollywood as like being the all American douchebag. Um, I don't know if that's actually true. Um, the quarterbacks have never they've never really been like my guys to go to. I like my linemen. I like my big boys, the linemen. They make me happy. They're just big fluffy teddy bears. That's all they are. They're just big fluffy teddy bears. They're great. I love them. I love my linemen and my running backs and my wide receivers. Those are my guys. My running backs, my wide receivers, and my linemen. So I mean, like pretty much everyone else, but it doesn't really matter. But he was a quarterback underneath Mike Leach, Cliff Kingsbury, and he became head coach. I don't remember what happened with him. I don't know if he got fired. I don't know if he quit. I don't know if he like retired. I don't know if he got a better job somewhere else. I don't know. Something happened because he's not there anymore. And so now we have this new coach, and my dad, when he called, was like, I don't know who this new coach is. I have no idea. But it doesn't matter because apparently he's really good. And also the defensive coordinator is really good because for the first time, like since, I don't know, I've been alive, Texas Tech had a defense, which is like unheard of. We generally don't really have a good defense, but we have a defense. So whoever that defensive coordinator is, you know your stuff. Like people need to listen to that guy. But so, well, it was kind of it was an upset because what happened was when my dad called us, he was like, "They're up. Texas Tech is up. Uh, yeah, they're winning." And against UT, which is like, you know, that, like I said, it's like a big deal. At Tech, blah, 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 blah. Words, English. Texas Tech was playing at home in Lubbock. And so we were beating the University of Texas, which is based in Austin, at home. So we had home field advantage. And we were winning them. We were beating them and winning the game. What was that, Abigail? And then, of course, you know, my mom and I are like, okay, we're like 20 minutes away. We'll be there. And my dad called us, and it was like the beginning of the fourth quarter. So football has 4 quarters, and college football has 4 quarters, and sorry. I'm trying to make, goodness. Okay. There we go. Okay. So each quarter is 15 minutes. And yeah, we were like 15 or 20. We were close. And we got home, and we got like the tail, maybe like the last 5 minutes of the game, and it went into overtime. We were very sad. And then, of course, Texas Tech has a problem like following through. Like we'll get complacent. Like Texas Tech will get up and we'll get ahead, and then we'll get cocky and we'll be like, and we'll get complacent because we'll be like, yeah, we're ahead, and then we'll just be like, oh, it's fine, you know. And then, as you know, Murphy's Law, you know, would say, we give it up. We give the rest of it up. Like everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and it does. It does because the game ended up being tied at the end of the fourth quarter, and then went to overtime, and then Tech lost. So it was very sad. We were very sad. Even my dad was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And that's okay. It's just a game. I was a little bit shocked that like they were still, I hadn't heard anything. Now, again, I haven't really been keeping up with what like sports are doing since the COVID situation. I thought that like they were stopped and like we're going to wait till next season, but I don't know if that was like purely professional or like what college sports were doing. You know, I have no idea. So I was a little bit surprised that they were even playing. So it was still a fun thing, you know, a game. It was still a fun game to watch that I got to do. It's something that I get to do with my dad that I really enjoy doing. At some point, again, because of COVID and he works at a hospital, it's, you know, it's nuts right now. We're at the hospital that my dad works at. So whenever he has some time, I would love for him to be on the podcast to talk about all kinds of stuff. But okay, so, and the reason that I bring that up is because, well, so, okay, so we'll put that on the back burner because I don't know when the next time is that my dad's going to be able to have some free time and be able to come on the podcast and talk about, all the things, sports, him, our relationship, all those kinds of things. I don't know when that's going to be. But I wanted to talk about sports because I am here at home. We did watch a sporting event. But also it's something that like me and my dad, like, it's like one of those things that like, it's like one of our things that like we like to do together. And another one of the things that he and I like to do together is watch boxing fights. Now, that's going to be a topic that I want my dad to really like sort of come in and talk about because I have a very like elementary version and like idea of boxing. I have a very sort of basic, I know enough to be dangerous and that's about it. I don't really know anything else. But it's something that I really enjoy talking to my dad about because he's really passionate about it. Like my dad is really passionate about boxing. He grew up, liking boxing. He did box a little bit. It was something that he really enjoyed doing. He still, like will go and spar and stuff when he has time. It's something that he is really passionate about. And I really enjoy that being something that like my dad and I can do together. And one of the things that another sporting situation that we watched, I guess it was yesterday. I don't know. It was at some point. We watched this. So first we like to watch fights together. We really enjoy watching fights. Like boxing matches. So we've watched the Thrilla in Manila. Hold on just a second. My computer is being stupid. Thrilla, it's being stupid. Yeah. So we watched the Thrilla in Manila, which was or no, actually I don't think we did. I don't know. Well, we definitely watched Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier fight. I think it was actually the first fight that they did. So they had 3 fights that they did. Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. I believe that to be true. I could be completely wrong. Like I said, I have a very like rudimentary understanding and knowledge of this stuff, but I enjoy watching it. Oh, that's the other thing. One of my favorite movies to watch, like especially with my dad, is Rocky. We love the Rocky series. Obviously Rocky 1 is like, well, it's my favorite. Rocky 1 is my favorite. But that's like, it's just, so that just kind of gives you a little bit of context. Like that's kind of about as much knowledge as I have. And then I'll talk to my dad about it. I'm not afraid. I'll ask him questions if I don't get it or don't understand something. Because he's really passionate and he's really knowledgeable about, that specific like topic, boxing. He's really knowledgeable about it. And when someone is both really knowledgeable and very passionate about something, I find it very interesting and very fun to like talk to that person. And so me and my dad watched fights together. And we watched I believe it was the first fight between Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali. You can just find him on YouTube. That's kind of like what we did, was my dad just found him on YouTube. And so like that's one of the things that we do. Like every time I call and I'm about to come home, he's like, I have several fights that we got to watch together. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like it's one of those things, like it's just like, yes, cool, awesome. So we've watched that. We've watched several of Muhammad Ali's fights. We've watched several of like Foreman's fights. just kind of like those kinds of just like, like the big ones, like the ones that like are really cool. But this thing that my dad and I watched the other day, it was called Chasing Tyson. And it was super interesting. I don't know if anybody else out there has watched it. I assume you have. I don't think that they would have made it if they, if there wasn't an audience for it, I don't think they would have made it. But so it's called Chasing Tyson, and it's about Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. And we haven't finished it yet, so that's why I think this is going to have to be like a two-parter, because I want to like, this is going to be kind of like my first take on it. And then like part 2, I guess, is going to be like when we finish it, because like I said, I don't know when we're going to be able to finish it. But hopefully we will be able to soon. And I will at some point, have my dad come on, and he can talk about boxing and his relationship with boxing and like all of that stuff. And that'll be something, that we do. Just hold on to it. Sorry, I had to take a drink. But so yeah, so we watched this thing. It's called Chasing Tyson, and it's about Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson. And it goes all the way back to like the beginning, like when the tension started, how it all began, all that kind of stuff. It's on ESPN. I don't know if it's on like ESPN Plus or something. I only say that because I thought I saw a plus sign at the top of like with the ESPN logo, but I don't know if that's true. I'm sure you can stream it or find it somewhere else. I don't know if you necessarily have to like, have the ESPN app to watch it or something like that. But I'm sure you can find it. It's really good. And like I said, we're only about halfway through, but it's really good and I'm really enjoying it. And I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about stuff that like I had no idea about. Like, so one of the things that I found really interesting was that, Evander Holyfield, like he grew up in the ghetto, and he says in this interview, like I didn't know how to read. Like he basically like and then he would get really upset. Like he would get very angry, which I can understand if you're in elementary school, and I can only imagine what that must be like. But it was fascinating to listen to him, and he was like, and then I would just get really mad. But what he did was he channeled that rage and that anger. But the thing that I find so interesting is that Mike Tyson did the same thing. I don't know if necessarily if Mike Tyson can read or not, like any of that. I just remember that being a very specific, like interesting sort of tidbit about Evander Holyfield that I was like, oh, wow, very humble beginnings. Amazing. Good for you, dude. But so then Mike Tyson, apparently, and I didn't know this about Mike Tyson, but he like grew up in, so there was this guy, I forget, you know what, we're just going to look it up because I would rather just look it up now. Okay, so Custom Auto is, hold on just a second, boxing, because it's just going to give me a whole bunch of, Google's just going to give me a whole bunch of stuff that I don't care about. Okay, Custom Auto. Okay, so it's spelled C-U-S space capital D apostrophe capital A-M-A-T-O. Custom Auto. He was a boxing manager, and he was a boxing manager for a very long time. Apparently, yeah, okay, so this is Wikipedia. Take it with a grain of salt. If you have any extra, like, information, feel free to share. I would love to know. So Custom Auto, I guess so his full name is Constantine D'Amato. Oh, D'Amato, excuse me. He was born January 17th, 1908 in New York City, and he was a boxing manager and trainer from 1933 until 1985. So it looks like people call him Cuss, so that's what I'm going to do, because I don't really want to say Constantine D'Amato the whole time. So Cuss, trained this guy, Floyd Patterson, back in, oh, what was that year? Okay, 1956 was when he started training Floyd Patterson. And he was a middleweight. So what that means, for those of you that don't know, because I didn't know this either, and if you care at all or interested, this is what it means. Okay. So if you are a middleweight and if you're in the middleweight division, then you are 154 pounds or 70 kilograms up to, but I would assume not exceeding, 160 pounds, 73 kilograms. Early boxing history is less than exact, but the middleweight designation seems to have begun in the 1840s. Interesting. Very cool. Okay. So apparently, this Floyd Patterson guy, don't really know a lot about him. According to Wikipedia, he was the first Olympic gold medalist to win a professional heavyweight title. That's super awesome. Good on that dude. That's so cool. I didn't know that. Youngest world heavyweight champion in history. Damn. Okay, that's awesome. But so apparently, so this guy had, Cus D'Amato, the trainer, had a specific way of so I forget what it is. I'll have to ask my dad, and I can retroactively go back and it was Sonny Liston. Excuse me. He did a split after Patterson's second consecutive first round loss to Sonny Liston, although he influenced over I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to get my dad to clarify all of this stuff and talk to me about it so I can come back and retroactively fix this. But it's not important. So apparently Cus D'Amato, he was this big guy. He was a big name in the boxing world for middleweight champions and stuff like that. He was just really good. But what happened, apparently the story goes that he found Mike Tyson in a I don't think it was a foster home, but it was something like a home for troubled teens or troubled kids or something like that. And he basically pulled him out of this home and was like, we're going to channel that anger. We're going to channel that anger and we're going to figure we can do this. And I just find that very interesting. I feel like that's probably true for a lot of boxers, not just specifically Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson, but I feel like that's got to be true. Just kind of across the board with sports, is that they'll take, that's sort of the story, is that you take that anger and this is a very positive way to channel that anger. But I didn't know that about Mike Tyson. That was really interesting. I had no idea that that's what he did. But apparently he just sort of blew up. He was just really good at it, at boxing. Which I'm not going to contest that at all. He's good at what he does. He's very talented. He's an incredibly talented boxer and he's very good at what he does. I'm not going to, knock Mike Tyson for that because, say what you will about him and his personal life, but you do have to concede that the man is incredibly talented and is very good at boxing. And, and he wouldn't have lasted as long as he did in the boxing world and be as relevant as he was for as long as he was, if he didn't have something to back up his, that sort of that attitude that he had. I do wonder though, because according to my dad, he was considered the bad boy of boxing, and they even said that in this Chasing Tyson documentary, that he was considered the bad boy of boxing, and so he lived this very sort of out there, all of this very out there, in your face, bad boy life, the drugs, the alcohol, the women, all this stuff, the cars, I assume, the flashy jewelry, the flashy, all that stuff, that he was considered the bad boy of boxing because well, and then also that nobody wanted to fight him, and I couldn't figure out why. I had no idea what was the deal. Why was he considered like, what made Mike Tyson so almost like not divine, but it like on a level of his own. Like what made everybody think this about him? And apparently what happened was he fought this guy. Again, I don't remember his name. I'm gonna have to retroactively go back and like ask my dad, and I'll do like a cleanup corner or whatever the fuck on part 2. I'm just kind of trying to get all this out there. But he fought a guy and something happened and he like knocked him out in like 90 seconds or something crazy like that. And that like put him on the map. That was like what did it for Mike Tyson. That's what, and he was just, I guess he was just like big, mean, and scary or something. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know, because I guess the thing to me is that like Evander Holyfield seems much more interesting to me as a person. I don't know if that has, because another one of the fights that my dad and I did watch, we did watch both Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson fights, just on YouTube, whatever. The first one where Evander Holyfield wins both fights, so it's fine. But Evander Holyfield just seems a lot more interesting to me. And I don't know. I've always been, first of all, I think he's just better looking than Mike Tyson to begin with. So that's probably like, I don't know if that's like a common thing, like a common sentiment among people, but I just think Evander Holyfield is much better looking than Mike Tyson. So there's that. But the other thing too is that Evander Holyfield, apparently he got, and I had no idea about this either, he got so much hate. People hated him. And throughout this documentary, up to the point that we have watched, he just keeps talking about like how he's just getting like hammered over the head with like hate, and people just don't like him. And I don't understand what the deal is. And so I asked my dad, I was like, well, what's the deal? I don't get it. Because to me, first of all, he's better looking than Mike Tyson. And second of all, he just seems way more interesting to me. Well, so they started the documentary and they asked it, it was this idea of like, like kind of who you are, like, what are you? And he was like, and basically, he's like, I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't party. I box. Like that's what he does, is he boxes. And he's really, really good at it. He's very good at it. He's incredibly talented. I mean, oh my gosh, it's amazing to watch him fight. I enjoy watching those fights with my dad because he's so good at what he does. It's to me, it's the difference between watching an artist and someone who's like doing it because, like they have to, or like it's just for money or something like that. But he is an artist. Like he is very good at it. And he makes it fun to watch. I enjoy watching him fight. It's very fun. And he always puts up a good fight. It's very fun, to watch. But so like that was his thing, is like he wasn't the party guy. He was a very when he was like at his prime, back in like the the 80s and the early 90s and stuff, when he was in his prime and he was boxing, he was very humble. He was very quiet. He didn't really he was the polar opposite of Mike Tyson. The polar opposite of Mike Tyson. So, Mike Tyson was very flashy and showy and very in your face and very, like I said, like the bad boy of boxing. Whereas Evander Holyfield he's very humble. He was very humble. He was very, he even described himself, as like a mama's boy. Like he's just very this is just what he does. he's good at it, and he has that integrity, and is just, and see, that to me is just, and he's very quiet. There was a clip of a video where he was running. I don't know where he was running, but he was running, I assume in Atlanta, because that's where he's from. But or not, he's not from Atlanta, but he lived in Atlanta for a while or something. I don't know. It might have been in Alabama, because he's from Atmore, Alabama, or he was born there. But he so he was like running and outside, and people just kept passing him. It was like nobody had any idea who this guy was. It's like one of the, greatest boxers of all time, just running, and people were like, "Oh my God, I love your shirt. Like, it's so cute," or "I really like your shirt," or, something like that. But it was like, no one was like, "Oh my God, it's Evander Holyfield," which I feel like people would say that if like they saw Mike Tyson, like you would know, like you would know if like, you'd be like, "Oh my God, that's Mike Tyson." But if like Evander Holyfield was like in the grocery store with you, I don't know if people would know who he was. But that's always more interesting to me. I don't know why. And I don't understand this concept of like, we're going to give this guy a whole bunch of hate, and we're going to like, not be fans, and we're just going to be like, "Oh, he's boring. I don't get that." He's way more interesting to me. He seems way more interesting to me. Like, I want to know. Tell me all of the things. Tell me all the stuff. Tell me about how you grew up. Tell me about, what was the thing in your life that you were like, "I'm going to box. I'm going to just start boxing. Let's see what happens. I don't know if I'm any good at it. Like, we'll just figure it out." And then it turns out you're actually really good at it. I mean, like, how did you find that? Like, and where does it live inside of you? Like, where does that live inside of you? That fighter in you, that fight of, and I would love to see how you prepare, like all this stuff. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. I'll go have lunch with you. Like, that sounds fun. I didn't know this. I pulled this up on Google. I just Googled him because I wanted to make sure I was getting like the, like the places correct. But I didn't. It's just on Evander Holyfield's Wikipedia page. Apparently, he's nicknamed the Real Deal. That's funny. Okay, so but he is, again, regardless of what you think about him as a person, about him as just him alone in the boxing world. Evander Holyfield alone in the boxing world, not anything about his family or his personal life or, like any of that. He is, according to his Wikipedia page, Holyfield is the only 4-time world heavyweight champion, having held the unified WBA, WBC, and IBF titles from 1990 to 1992. The WBA and the IBF titles again from 1993 to 94. The WBA title the third time from 1996 to 1999. Oh my God. So he held all these titles for a very long time. Oh yeah. And then we did see, it is in that documentary that he got disqualified from the 1984 Olympics. And I will say this, when we watched that, my dad was like, he got robbed. That was bullshit. And I mean, I kind of have to agree with my dad, because that kind of was bullshit. Again, so this is just the kind of person that Evander Holyfield is. He is the kind of person that when asked, he was being interviewed like right after the fight, after he found out that he was being disqualified, because what happened was he continued to hit after the ref had said stop twice, I believe it was. And you can't do that in boxing. I don't know if those were specific rules for the Olympics or what it was, but Evander Holyfield said, he's being interviewed, and he could have said anything. He could have sat there and been outraged, absolutely outraged. He could have been, very upset, very, very vocal about it. He could have, but you know what he did? The guy asked him, like point blank, "Did you hear the ref yell stop?" How many times did you hear the ref yell stop or something along those lines? And Evander Holyfield said, I heard him yell stop twice. I heard him yell stop once, and then I was already hitting the guy. And that's when he heard the second stop. Honest, to the point, he understands. And then the other thing too is his opponent. I don't remember who his opponent was in that fight. Oh, it wasn't the 1984 Olympics. There was an Olympics. I know there was because it was in the freaking documentary and I saw the video. I don't remember which one it was though. But his opponent, good on that guy too, because he was like, he knew that the only reason that he won that fight was because of Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield won that fight. He 100% won that fight. And anyone who says otherwise just doesn't have eyes or something. Like, I don't know. Like, you just can't, you don't see what's happening. But Evander Holyfield won that fight. He got disqualified. So the other guy wins by default, which, I mean, is still technically a win. You know, that's fine. But the guy who won by default, even after they announced that he won, he was like, even I think this is bullshit, because he knew. And he raised his hand up. Like, oh, that broke my heart a little bit. I was like, oh, that's so sad, but good on that other guy for like doing the right thing. But anyway, so Evander Holyfield. Well, and the other thing too, one of the reasons that I believe that this documentary is coming out is because it is rumored. I don't know if it is confirmed. I don't know if this is true, but I heard a rumor that both Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield are coming out of retirement. So I wonder if that has a lot to do with like the timing of this documentary, and all of that stuff. It'll be interesting to see. I don't care if they're 50 something. I will still, they could still beat my ass 100%. But again, I would probably just do a pretty kick and then I would run away because I don't like violence like that. I would be like, oh yeah, okay, bye. That's just me. But I assume that has something to do with the timing of this documentary, but it's really good. So if you have any interest in boxing, if you know anything at all about boxing, or if you want to learn about boxing, or any of those sorts of things, or if you have an interest in Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield, go watch Chasing Tyson on ESPN. It's so good. Like I said, we're only about halfway through, but I'm going to do another part to this when we finish it, and I'll give you all my hot takes and stuff about that. But as of right now, where we are in the documentary, I couldn't tell you like timing wise what that was. But I would say we're about halfway through. I am definitely team Holyfield. Just because I find him more interesting. I think he's a lot sexier, and they're both incredibly talented. They're both incredibly talented boxers. I honestly just think that Holyfield is more interesting. And he's someone that I would want to get to know. He really is. He's someone that I would want to get to know. Or meet, or something like that. Like we could be friends. Like I could be friends with Evander Holyfield. I don't really know if I could be friends with Mike Tyson. Based on what I know about him, I don't really know if I could be friends with Mike Tyson. But I feel like I could definitely be friends with Evander Holyfield. So, that's that. Like I said, I will put up, and I'm gonna try to get my dad on as like whenever to talk about not just boxing, but just all the different kinds of stuff. My dad is really knowledgeable about a lot of different kinds of stuff. But like I said, it just has to do, it depends on his schedule and stuff like that. Email us at manicpixieweirdo at protonmail.com. There is a link to that on our Twitter page. So if like if you don't know how to spell it, or you want like just like a quick easy link to that, just go to our Twitter page. It's on the Twitter, and the Twitter is is MP Weirdo Podcast. Is the at that's our Twitter handle is at MP Weirdo Podcast. So yeah. And so the email is right there. You can listen to us anywhere you get your podcasts. Like us, subscribe to us. We love you. Be kind and stay weird, weirdos. Love y'all. Bye.